digital identity is no longer science fiction. It's creeping into real policy debates. In the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has just triggered a civil liberties firestorm by proposing a mandatory digital ID system by 2029. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Donald Trump and many in the US have voiced opposition to national digital IDs. But he won't be president forever. What if America slides into a political regime more friendly to globalist agendas, including digital IDs? Let's unpack what's happening now, what the risks are, and how this fight may come here next. According to The Independent, a petition calling for the UK government to scrap plans for digital identity cards has passed 1.5 million signatures. The core objection? The petition states, "We think this would be a step towards mass surveillance and digital control, and that no one should be forced to register with a state-controlled ID system." Starmer has said the new digital ID would be mandatory for anyone wanting to work in the UK. Crucially, he frames it as part of a broader push to tighten border control and crack down on illegal employment, as well as modernize public services. The announced timeline: the ID system should be in place by 2029, before the next general election. But the backlash is serious. Civil liberties groups, opposition parties across the UK, data privacy advocates and cybersecurity experts warn this is a massive target for abuse, surveillance creep, and data breaches. So what could Starmer's plan mean in practice? Let's break down what we know, and what remains vague. 1. Centralization and surveillance risk. Collecting identity, biometric, address, immigration status. Data in a unified digital system is exactly what surveillance critics warn invites function creep. Experts warn that it becomes an enormous hacking target. Once the infrastructure is in place, additional uses are tempting: tracking benefits, travel, policing, beyond the original right-to-work justification. 2. Exclusion and inequality. Not everyone has, or wants to use, a smartphone. The system's accessibility for rural, older, or disadvantaged populations is a real worry. If showing ID becomes mandatory for essential services, what happens when your digital credentials fail or are compromised? 3. Legal and civil liberties pushback. Opposition parties, Conservatives, Lib Dems, SNP, DUP, Sinn Féin, have already signaled resistance. Critics argue it violates the privacy rights inherent in a liberal democracy. The petition surpassing 1 million signatures indicates widespread public unease. 4. Technical and security challenges. Large-scale identity systems have historically been targets for breaches and misuse. The government has yet to fully clarify how data will be stored, controlled, audited, or limited. If private contractors or tech firms are involved, for example companies bidding for infrastructure contracts, that opens additional vectors of risk. 5. Function creep and normalization. Once a system is in place for one purpose, right to work, it becomes easier politically to expand its usage: voting, welfare, licensing, policing. This foot-in-the-door tactic is exactly what many civil liberties activists fear. It's not that digital identity is inherently evil. Many countries use versions of it, for example Estonia. The question is, who controls it, under what rules, and how many protections are in place to prevent abuse? The BBC live feed would likely have covered Starmer's announcements, public responses, and parliamentary reactions in real time. Live coverage helps surface immediate tensions, dissenting voices, protests, and public sentiment as policy unfolds. Key in such live reporting is to catch how media frames it, as a security measure, modernization, or threat to rights. From a media strategy perspective, leaks, reactions, and framing during live coverage can influence momentum, public trust, and political pushback. Let's shift across the Atlantic. While the UK is reigniting the digital ID debate, what's America doing, or not doing? Donald Trump and many American conservatives have expressed opposition to national digital identity schemes. The fear is centralization, surveillance, and loss of privacy. Trump's opposition today is meaningful because he sets the tone for many in his coalition. However, he will not be in office forever. His constitutional term, if re-elected, ends in 2028. Once Trump is out, if a successor more sympathetic to globalist transnational agendas, for example WEF technocratic governance, comes in, the door could open for digital ID policies, and the US digital identity fits into broader globalist ambitions, tying citizens into centralized systems, interoperable across nations, enabling data flow, tracking, and control. Many advocates of smart cities, digital governance, or identity infrastructure already lobby for interoperable systems that could tie into continental or global frameworks. Historically, major policy shifts, especially those done under urgency or authoritarian conditions, tend to pass when public awareness is low and alternatives are weak. If Americans aren't vigilant, the same logic used in UK, for example, you need it to work, to prevent fraud, for public services, could be repurposed domestically. So don't fool yourself. Opposition now matters. Once surveillance infrastructure is built, even if the worst abuses don't happen immediately, you've still lost a layer of freedom. Here are red flags to watch and steps people can take. Red flags, early warning signs, legislation pushed under the cover of emergencies or security crises, hidden or opaque clauses expanding the permitted use of a digital ID system, partnerships with private firms, tech giants, or foreign actors without strong oversight. Mandates that condition access to work, benefits, travel, or essential services on digital identity compliance. Lack of strong sunset clauses auditing transparency and legal recourse mechanisms. Moves toward interoperability across states or international agreements on identity standards. What citizens, activists can do. 1. Educate and raise awareness. Many people dismiss digital ID as futuristic or inevitable. It isn't. 2. Demand transparency. Require governments to publish architecture, governance, oversight, and audits. 3. Support legal protections. Push for strict privacy laws, limitations on surveillance, and citizen rights to challenge misuse. 4. Resist normalization. Reject proposals that make digital ID mandatory for basic rights unless protections are ironclad. 5. Follow the money. Track government contracts, tech vendors, lobby groups pushing identity infrastructure. 6. Coordinate globally. Civil liberties movements across nations can support each other. What happens in the UK or EU often migrates to US policy debates. We won't stop the march of technology, but we can insist it serve us, not enslave us. Our role is to argue for dignity, privacy, and autonomy before the systems are in place and we're told, too late. Thanks for staying with me through that deep dive. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, share, especially with friends who think digital ID is just a harmless convenience. I'll post sources, timelines, and reference links in the description so you can dig deeper. Write in the comments, what alarms you most about digital identity policy? Have you seen similar proposals in your country? Let's keep the conversation alive. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay informed, and stay free.